Thank you, Sonja, for joining me here in this Storyboard Convo podcast. And we got the news several days ago, or probably a couple of weeks ago, that Gazette 2.0 is suspending its operation. How about that? Just like politicians,
shuttered.
right? Just like
it has been shuttered.
Oh,
That's the
no.
favorite journalism word for headlines.
And it coincided with the All Day Soul too, right?
It did.
Or All Souls Day, yeah.
That was actually happenstance. But when I realized that the dates were lining up, I was like, well, let's go with it. Because I've been with Gazette 2.0 since probably the second month. It had been created by a group of businessmen in town that were kind of the long-term paper that had been in McKees Rocks since 1892.
Wow.
And in the early 70s had changed names, but it was the same company, had closed without an announcement, nothing. It was just gone. And probably 3 weeks later, they reopened with, they were calling it Gazette 2.0. It went from McKees Rocks Gazette to Suburban Gazette to Gazette 2.0. Probably about a month in, they asked me for input because while they were good at business, they were not as well versed in how do you collect news, how do you put it out properly, how do you do this and that.
Mm-hmm.
And fast forward, I get into that. They're backing away. They went out about 3 years in. Asked me 3 separate times if I wanted to take it over. And I said, I don't know, business, I'm not. I might be good at journalism. I might be good at all this other stuff, but put business in front of me. All right, I'll figure it out. I'll learn.
Wow, so brave.
But this was during COVID-19 when everybody was working from home and I wasn't running here and there and everywhere. And I thought, I can do this. And I, in my soul, really, really believe that community, and I'm talking about small time journalism, has to remain part of society. You cannot, I don't know how to word this. The country cannot exist on headlines that are national news. That's it. You need to know what the small towns are doing, their school districts, your business people in town. You need to know the good and the bad, and you need to know what your community is doing.
Mm-hmm.
If you just, go to work, come home, or sit in your house and go on Zoom and go to work all day, you are not interacting with society. And after a while, no one knows what's going on. I was backing it up a little further. You're going to mention this. I had left journalism to become a communications and marketing manager in the town of McKees Rocks, McKees Rocks Community Development. I wanted, if I was leaving journalism, my thought process was, I need to be doing something where I could feel like I'm giving back to society. So I couldn't find myself working at a big corporation as, your communications 3B. You're a number in a letter. You're not a person. And so I was there not even a year before I'm getting involved and drug into this newspaper startup. Always kept the two separate because in the communications and marketing, you are trying to
The good news.
Trying to put out the good news or serve it as well as possible. And I told them, and I had board permission both times. First one, I joined staff as a contributing editor. And then when I became editor and publisher, owner, got board permission. I said, there will be no favors. That's not how this works. And, they were on board with that. But sometimes that's got really hard. Anyhow, it was never, just like you hear all these large papers that are being bought up by big conglomerates. it's really hard to make money
All right.
with a print project, which we were printing every other week, and we were online.
Mm-hmm.
Or say here in Pittsburgh, the Pittsburgh Post Gazette or the Trib Live, Trib Review, they've cut and cut and cut. The only paper right now that's printing, and it's what, Thursday and Sunday here, is the Post Gazette, and I have a feeling that's not going to last much longer.
Yeah, because the strike's still on.
The strike's still on. They've just, I mean, we could go down that rabbit hole. They're just ignoring their strikers and restaffing and starting again. And that's the future of journalism in the United States. There has to be something done to put a hold on that, stop it, slow it down.
Yeah.
Or reinvent the wheel.
Yeah. Or create not the wheel, something else. I don't know.
So square. Well, it was like, so when we were working with such a tiny budget in McKees Rocks, we were attempting to use citizen journalists to bring back the news. And in some cases it worked, some cases it didn't. Interesting. Towards my last year with the company, had a woman who volunteered to come and go to meetings. She brought back notes. She had at one point been a stenographer, and she's in court type legal briefs and whatnot. And she would just go to the meeting, hand me the document or email me the document. Everything that was said and who said it was all there.
All right.
So I, having done this for years and years, could just like, that would be wonderful if all of our citizen journalists were that, well equipped to, at least they're learning what out of that list of all those words is important. What would people want to read about, etc. But then you had some of them that would come and go, and they'd be trying to do stories about their buddy, and all these other things. So that was just depended on who you were working with.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of freelancers, citizen journalists, and there was myself who was not taking a salary. But me being stuck with the bag at the end of the month when it's time to pay.
All right.
And we had 2 employees.
Full time.
They were 36 hours, but full time enough.
Yeah, with benefits and stuff.
No benefits.
Oh, okay.
It wasn't even that good. No benefits. They were doing it for the love of either the love of journalism or I had a couple that came through, young gentlemen who had very little background, went to college, majored in history, wrote a few articles for his college paper, but he wasn't on staff or anything like that. He is amazing. He used it as a lesson, as going to college. Here's your real world education.
Yeah.
And now take over the world.
That is probably, I don't want to say the answer, but probably could be default.
Do you need a journalism degree?
For this, well, okay.
That's the question. Do you?
Okay. Let's just start with the this journalism degree students right now, and I probably can use the space score model, right? Before, they could elect to serve the community, right? And then paid probably by the government, and then they go to and work for local newsrooms, right? But it requires government to
so a traditional journalism degree where you just go to the classes and you have a 3-month internship, and here you are, and you really don't know what you're doing, even though you pretended for 4 years.
Yeah. And then you mentioned about do they need we need a degree? Do journalists need a degree, right? So that's another. Discussion.
That is another discussion. You need to be able to string words together, at least.
Well, especially with an AI, now everything is questionable, right?
Definitely. I don't want to get into that.
Yeah, exactly, right? So it's not just journalists, but tons of jobs, right? And which is crazy. And actually, this is quite random. I apologize, but I I read recently that people thought that the AI would change the hardware jobs first, with the along with robotics.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they thought. But now with the ChatGPT, it completely changed that the white collar jobs are going to be replaced first.
Mm-hmm.
And even the scientists, even the engineers, they were quite surprised that the hardware side is harder than the software side. I mean, all this after they break through the language processing part,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it's like, wow.
I think that even, okay, you have an AI robot, whatever you want to call it,
Yeah.
a computer writing your stories, you still need someone there to
Yes.
guide it.
Yes.
But what happens
Yes.
when they figure that part out?
Right. Right. And probably the ratio is not 1-to-1 anymore. Now it's like a 1-to-5.
Right?
And then the editor is not like 1-to-20
So if
anymore.
I had
It's
an
like,
AI
yeah.
reporter, I could have been all right.
Yeah.
Another.
All right. So, okay, let's go back way back then. So, did you have a journalism degree?
I do. I do have a journalism degree from Penn State University,
Mm-hmm.
minored in history, graduated in 96.
So, what was your first job out of the...
I was freelancing prior and during college. I also was a yearbook photographer in high school. I was on staff for many years, helping with layout design, writing, all that. So I was into that already. My first job was with an agricultural newspaper in Salem, Ohio. It still publishes once a week. It's 4 or 5 sections. It's pretty much like a tri-state, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Ohio, big bubble there, called the Farm and Dairy. They have an antique section, and they have a section on grains and corn and all that kind of stuff, equipment. It's definitely agricultural based. So that was, and I did live on a farm for several years. So I was kind of, I was already into that. I knew what they were looking for and how to.
But you didn't grow up in the farm, family or not.
So I lived near McKees Rocks as a child, and we moved when I was going into 5th grade. My father decided, my mother too, I guess, that they wanted to move to the country, and they bought 30 acres. We built a house. We physically built the house.
Wow.
So,
that's impressive.
So that was several years. It took several years to do this, but we built the house. We had a retired contractor come out and help us tell us what we were doing right or wrong, and things like bricklaying. It was a brick house, brick, concrete block for the basement, and drywall. That was the only thing we didn't tackle ourselves. So 30 acres, which became 200 over several years. So it was interesting when you were going to a farm to report on something, they could tell if you grew up in an ag situation, because you weren't afraid to walk behind the cows, or you weren't afraid to touch the animals.
Right.
Or just push them out of your way because they're like trying to eat your notebook while you're trying to take notes or something like that. So yeah, that was my first gig. I still in contact with them. A couple years ago, they were looking for an editor, and they called me. So had several calls from Ohio, which is,
wow.
I don't think I really want to go back into ag, but that is where papers are still prominent. If you go further towards central Ohio, there's a large chain of weeklies that are, I guess you'd call them shoppers, but they are catering to Amish populations. And so I'm selling my hay wagon, put the wanted ads in there. I mean, these papers are thick because they don't use the computer, they don't use electricity, they're not on the phone, or the TV, or seeing anything else, the internet. The paper is still the way they get the news, and that's how they sell things, trade things, you name it. It's kind of interesting. So there still are places that have not become news deserts.
So I guess it's like if they're remote enough that they still need it and they still run it and they still have it, right? They still have it and they still run it. If it's a big city, probably it's gone.
Right.
But somewhere in the middle now is
Yeah.
the challenge, right? It's the gray area where the battle
But
is, right?
you still see that they're stumbling or on the way to,
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to call it failure, but on the way to the end. They've not failed. It's just that it's not,
There's no money in it.
there's no money in it, and it's not quite needed. We did a farewell edition.
Mm-hmm.
I should have brought a copy, but I didn't.
Oh, you can see it online.
You
Is
have it? Well, you
That's-
see some of the pictures. The copy, if you read
let me
James Hogan's column, he talks about the invention of the Model T and the companies that made beautiful wagons and beautiful wagon wheels. Well, no one wants a wagon anymore. No one wants a carriage or a buggy. They want a car. So if you either get with the times or you don't. So
All right.
that was his example.
So the audience right now can see this Gazette 2.0 website on screen. Those who are listeners only, you can't see it, but yeah, it's still online. You can just go to Gazette 20, right? Gazette20.com, and you can still see it. And there's you see you don't know what you're missing until it's gone. It's a farewell edition, and have a picture of Sonja.
Wow, somebody had to write about me. We won an award last year
Yes,
for
you did. I saw
best
it.
community journalism.
Yes,
And
isn't that ironic?
it is. It was like almost a year to the day.
Oh,
It was right in that period because, social media reminds you every year what happened last year and the past however many years you've been on.
Yeah.
So there it was. It was kind of sad.
Yeah. Also, this a shout out also to Jamie, right? And then he moved on to city paper, now to public source.
Yes. And this was one of our columnists for a while. Right here, a walk through history. The name is we went by last name. This is for Carrie.
Yeah.
David.
Ficari. Yeah. All right. Walk through history. All right.
So it's just more or less a history lesson on journalism and where it came from and kind of where it's headed or where it's not headed.
Yeah.
And people just come out and he sent it in. He's like, publish it. I'm like, sure thing.
Oh, that's nice.
It is really nice. It was very community. He lives in Stowe Township. So the main core communities of this paper were McKees Rocks, Stowe Township, and Kennedy Township. Those were our core communities. We had a pretty good following from Crafton, Ingram, and then the Pittsburgh neighborhood of Sheridan.
Yeah.
So that was like and then I had been working on building it out.
Right.
But
yeah, so I think you mentioned of this location. Honestly, when I was like 10 years ago, I could not distinguish McKees Rocks from McKees Sport.
A lot of people can't.
So I have a map right here, right? So I know that you mentioned Sheridan, and I think
here's Crafton Heights.
McKees Rocks is right there, right on top of Sheridan, Esplin, and right next
so
to
Esplin right here. Esplin, you cross the street from Esplin, you're in McKees Rocks.
Right.
Bruno Island's right there. Wind Gap, so right up there. This area.
Yeah.
Right past Berrywood. See, Crafton is in here, or Ingram.
Right.
Crafton over here. There's Thornburg. I guess that's on the other side, but all those communities.
Yeah, and while the McKees Sport is on the other end.
It's over. Yeah, definitely. So in this little zone up here in the corner, that's us.
Yep. So that's your mark.
Right outside of Pittsburgh.
So I assume that there's no other local newspaper currently.
No, not in that area. There are some people there's news and then there's what I call fluff.
Mm.
So we heavily attempted to tell the news
Yeah.
in my 6 years there.
Mhm.
But, there are other papers out there that are just, columns and recipes and, oh, we had light up night and here's cute pictures of the mayor cutting the ribbon on a new building or,
Yeah.
stuff like that. There's those types of papers, but ours was definitely
Right.
out there doing some watchdog journalism. If
Yeah.
you look at our last issue, there are a lot of features, and that is because I had them banked for future use, and I
Mhm.
let them all go at one time.
Okay.
So it's a really good newsy
Yeah.
issue.
Yeah.
So,
So, looking at the from the funding streamline, right? So did the advertisers just stop
so
advertising, or
it,
did they actually go bankrupt because of COVID, or what happened there?
so advertising, interestingly,
Because that's the most revenue,
right? That is at least how you used to pay for a paper. There needs to be a new way. A lot of younger business owners have no desire to place print advertisements. They want everything online. And we were caught in, because we were following the model of a paper that started in 1892, most of the community just followed. Some of them still never will refer to it to Gazette 2.0. They still call it the Suburban Gazette. A lot of people will not, like, I would get checks written to the wrong paper.
Right.
So
It's so Pittsburgh.
But interestingly, the core advertisers came from the communities of McKees Rocks and a little bit in Kennedy. Struggling businesses. We're all struggling,
Wow.
but they were doing the community support.
Wow, that's amazing.
That is amazing.
I
And
never
when
had-
one went out of
yeah.
business and you lost their, and I'm watching as the prices of everything's going up and interest rates are skyrocketing and people are getting behind on their bills, like by months. And if my bills are behind coming to me and I'm working on a shoestring as it is, things start.
It's a domino effect.
It's a
right?
domino effect. I was also working a full-time job and things are finally getting back to the point, I don't know if this is good or bad, where I needed to be at events or meeting people in person again. And that, a 1-hour meeting becomes 3 hours because you're driving and you're stopping somewhere to get a snack or a drink or go to the bathroom, use the restroom. Time is suddenly like, I had so many plans of how to make this work and happen. And I did not have the manpower, human power, whatever you want to call it, to hold a full-time job and do everything that needed to be done. And I made a decision to end it. It was a viable product. People loved it. I had somebody pop into my office yesterday at my regular job telling me that the paper needs to come back in one way or another. And I'm like, oh, so you have some money? Oh, I'll help you. I'm like, that's all, And you hear people, I have reported in that at the council meeting, it was announced at the McKees Rocks, or discussed at the McKees Rocks council meeting, that the paper had been shuttered. And somebody goes, if I had known that they were in so much trouble, I would have subscribed. I would have given them some money. I'm like, that's why the headline, what did I call it?
Let me go back to it. Yep.
Right up top there. You don't know what you're missing till it's gone. I believe it's what it says.
Yes.
Yep. You don't know what you're missing till it's gone.
All right. So, was there any regret? Like hearing those, are
Yes,
those
it
offers
hurts.
sincere, or I mean, because sometimes
Right.
people just say it, right?
So wait, we had the wake. It was on Day of the Dead, which was it was just also All Souls Day.
All Souls Day, yeah.
Not the day before was All Saints Day. We closed the weekend before. We thematically a little bit different than your big city dailies. We had fun with graphic design. Our Halloween edition was always a little fun, festive. We went with it. Totally. There's a headstone on the cover. We were talking when I told the ladies that we were. I was shutting down and I had coffee with them, the two of them. I was trying to get those two in the same room.
Yeah.
It was crazy, but there's that. There was a story on that as well on the front cover.
Yeah.
That was the front cover with the story embedded into the headstone. But we were talking, and she's like, "Oh, so can I take the bridge and can we break it?" Or we had like ideas to have people, the broken bridge and then I was laughing. I go, "What is the Halloween edition?" And I go, "And the bridge does look like the top of a tombstone." And so then we started, and that's supposedly that zombie hand reaching up out of the earth is supposed to symbolize me or Caitlin Spitzer, who was our rock. She made the paper beautiful every week.
Mm.
That's either her just like, "Oh, this person calls me with a change on a $25 ad one more time." That kind of stuff. But yes, that's what she said it was for. I almost kind of think we should have just went with the headstone. But we had the worst week getting depressed.
Yeah.
I think in its entire run that week.
I bet.
We had it crashed ours, and we had to start over after most put together. So
you guys can see it at the you just go to the website and the article. You don't know what you're missing till it's gone. You can see the tombstone illustration right here.
I figured if we're gonna go out fun.
Yeah. That's what I found out when I read it. It's like, oh, okay, cool. And then
it reflects my sense of humor.
Yes.
So
and then farewell,
a lot of people
party on All Souls Day. It's like perfect.
But you actually pointed that out to me, and I'm like, oh.
Yeah, because I was actually looking at the calendar whether I could made it or not, and so I set it up with the U.S. holidays or whatever right on my Google Calendar.
And yours, it was on.
Also, hey Sonja, do you know?
Like this makes it. So we had 30-some people show up for the wake. We had dinner, which one of our advertisers catered. And it was just a time to get together and chat. There was no agenda, no anything. It was just this young lady came up to me, and I'm looking at her, and I go, "Do I know you?" She goes, "No, you shouldn't know me." She's like, "But I've read your paper for years," and I'm surprised because she was so young. All right, and she says, "My friend so she's from Stowe Township. My friend in Crafton, I bought her a subscription too, so that we could talk about some of the articles." She's like, "I had this one on my refrigerator for years. We laughed and laughed about it." And I'm like, "Oh, which story?" And she tells me, and it was about a local corner market where a young tween, I guess, would say 11, 12, I don't remember, had gone in. Her mom gave her some money to go get candy from the store for her and her siblings.
Mm-hmm.
Comes back, brings the bag to her mother, and there are pills in the bottom of the bag, which turned out to be Viagra.
Mm.
So apparently said corner store was selling products. If you knew about it, you could get Viagra or any other kind of pharmaceutical.
Wow.
And so that became the strange things that happen in small towns. They become news. But she had it on her refrigerator for a long time, which amused me to no end. Mm. So a lot of people came that I wasn't expecting. It was good. I made up little tongue-in-cheek awards for all of my people.
That's nice.
So our photographer, who is also really in tune with the community, her name's Lynn Element. I gave her an award for being our eyes and ears, not just our eyes with the camera, but the
Right.
ears. She
Right.
would be, I heard this, don't know how much truth in it, but here you go. Like she's connected.
She lives in McKees Rocks too,
She
right?
lives in Kennedy, but yes,
Okay.
but grew up in the Rocks, and
Right.
those communities are sometimes fluid. A lot of them don't know there's a border.
Yeah.
This is the Rocks. That's just how it's looked at. So,
So, any regrets?
yes and no. I keep getting asked, when am I going to reopen it? And I'm like, when are you going to pay off my debts that I'm going to be paying for the next couple of years?
Is that a serious statement?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I will be. I have a lovely credit card debt right now that I probably should have never adopted, but I now have it. And I'm working on figuring out how to make that go away. Mm. And then there was also initial investments of my own cash to start. While the paper came to me at year 3 of 6, there was no money in the bank. It was starting from zero. So I put money in my own, and then I've, over the years, thrown 1,000 here or 2,000 here. Oh, I'm not going to make payroll. Got to put in. That happened more often than not. And I've not actually sat down with the accountant to see how bad that number. I can estimate at like 30 grand. I stuck in that's coming out of my own. Mm-hmm. But then I think about how many people go golfing every week or travel around the world, or, this is my hobby. I loved doing what I did. I loved reporting the news to the community. And I just couldn't balance.
It's like your contribution to the community. I mean, you really look like and sounds like a community person, someone who really are a member of community and actually an active member.
It's interesting. I am not from McKees Rocks. I would never consider myself to have been from the Rocks, even though I grew up in Kennedy and went to Montour School District in elementary school. But people accept me, and that's not the norm in small communities like McKees Park, Pittsburgh, McKees Port, McKees Rocks, any town. It's just like,
or across the river.
You're an outsider. We don't like you. You have a college education. We're not sure about you. But no, it's about the people and what they do. I received a couple really, really nice letters, and no, unsigned letter from a reader in Crafton Ingram is what it said. And I put it up on my Facebook. It's not on Gazette 20 or 2.0. Really well written, nicely concise, beautiful block hand printing, and a $5 bill. Cash. The saying, let's look at it as, well, let's not look at it as Gazette 2.0 is gone. Let's look at it as we had Gazette 2.0 for 6 years. It was just, I'm at the P.O. box looking at bills, and God, somebody wrote me something good. Oh, they probably want money. But no, it was this wonderful. No one has called, there's been one person that's called it a failure. The rest, actually, when I told some of my people, I'll leave her nameless here. She said, you didn't fail. This has been the best, we'll call it a project.
Yeah.
A community project.
Experiment sometimes.
Let's see if I could make it work.
Yeah.
And if I had more time and more people, I probably could have made it work. But it still wouldn't have been what it needed to be. I felt awful for what I was paying my employees. And did you ask about benefits? No, there weren't any. So I felt awful about that too. I'm like, how am I supposed to pay my people the way they should be paid? And obviously, I should be getting at least gas money here for, what I'm doing, or, taking people out to eat. I should be getting reimbursed for all that. It wasn't happening. So,
Wow. It's like it's like a passion. It's like
it was a passion project. There we go. Passion play. I'll get in trouble for that one. Edit that little section out.
You only had it once, okay? Probably just a discussion for Easter.
Exactly.
So, I mean, it seems like you had a lot of good experiences, best experiences. Right?
I love journalism.
So let me ask you, what's the worst experience that you've had running Gazette 2.0?
Having to tell my people that I was shutting it down. That was the hardest part. And also getting my husband to be on board with me shutting it down. Him of all people was like, oh, I know you. You'll make it work. You'll make it. I'm like, honey, you don't know how bad it is. I don't tell you. I don't show you. One morning, it was a Saturday, we were up at before 6 a.m. for some reason. And we're laying there in bed, and I go, let's go get breakfast. He goes, who's open at 6 a.m.? I go, there was a place open. I'm like, we're going here for breakfast. Never been there for breakfast. So I pull out my pen and I flip over the placemat, and I'm like, you need to focus. This is where we are. These aren't exact, but this is an approximation of how bad things are financially. And I can't just keep stacking one on top of the other on top of the other. I either need, inventing projects to get somebody to, let's get some money in early. Like, it wasn't feasible. I had trouble. We were trying to segue into an online only format, getting our print advertisers to segue and become online, not interested. People that wanted online interest were not seeing enough numbers because we're focusing on such a small area.
That's right.
But when I had readership online equating to what my print readership was, and that's two different age groups.
True.
I mean, it's being read. It's just
not enough volume.
For
the businessman to say, okay, this is a good ROI. Yeah. Wow. So Gazette 2.0, I don't want to, now I'm in my head, like, is it or is it was?
It is. That website's going to be there because I thrown enough money away that all that work is going to be preserved one way or another.
Awesome.
And there's some good work in there that causes people some consternation. So it needs to stay.
All right. So is it still a member of PMP? This is a Pittsburgh Media
I've not
Partnership.
Officially resigned.
Okay.
But so I would assume I am.
Did they know that you're shutting the door?
Yes.
Right? Did they know in advance?
I'm
just like wondering, was there any attempt to rescue you,
Oh, no, wait. No.
Or like a collaborative effort or
I didn't ask for that. I did. I told them, they knew ahead of time, but not much ahead of time. It wasn't like I'm like, hey, we're in straits here. I can't see me being here for 6 more months. It was just like, I'm done. And no, I don't think that there would be the kind of money I need or a way to fix.
Do you think that there's something that could have been done collectively, because, we have this, PMP in the city.
Right. I was a
PMPH,
member of the committee to bring PMP into existence.
Right.
And I did say goodbye to everybody. Not that anybody had their screen on, but you're in a Zoom meeting looking at, you're like, are they listening? Do they care? It's interesting. PMP, Pittsburgh Media Partnership, is supposed to be partnering. But people were still stuck in their old ways. I'm with the Post-Gazette. I'm special because I am the biggest paper. And you small community papers, that's all garbage. But honestly, it's not And I honestly feel that the savior of future journalism, local journalism, we'll call it that, is the small papers. I'm sitting there watching things happen in my communities that I once covered. No one. We have how many TV stations? How many newspapers? And then we have all these little pop-ups that what are they, curators? What do? They look at somebody else's news and say, hey, look. I don't know what the point of that is.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of those.
All right.
And okay, if I sign up for them, how are they? Right now they're getting funding, but what's it going to look like in 5 years? Well, is that what happened with the incline? Most likely, yes. So journalism we're currently pounding our heads against the wall, trying to figure out how to make the future happen. Does that sound like what you see on the horizon or the current? That's how I look at it anyhow.
Yeah.
It's frustrating. It is frustrating.
I agree with you.
So yes, we all need to work together. If you guys are listening at PMP, stop feeling that you're superior. We're all people, and we all have the same kind of personalities once you get down to it. We're all looking for the same thing, to report the news. So
right. So yes, sometimes it's lost in the rubric, right? And everybody has their own rubric. The management has their own rubric. The editorial side has their own rubric, and
some of some of the most amazing things that were done under my watch were collaboratives with public source, with other organizations. My pet project is air quality and environment. And we are very close to Neville Island, which...
Is it on top? Is it on the north side of Bruno Island?
Yeah, so Brighton Heights. Yep. So if you go up here to Brighton Heights, and here's the river, it's right. This is Bruno. Right. McKees Rocks Bridge is in here somewhere. It's just a little bit further up. And...
It's the most toxic island, right? Is that the one, or it's another island? I remember it used to be where the toxic...
It was a Superfund site.
Right, that's what it's called.
And there's a Superfund site on the far end of, and a lot of people, younger people don't know this, on the far end of Neville Island that was covered up and buried and wrapped, but it's right there on the river, your water source. When we were first, I'm going to put this out here, when we were first working to put this paper together, and I was working with a lot of people that really didn't know how to be journalists that first year. An oil company was blowing out their lines because they were going to switch from oil to fuel or diesel or something. They had to clean their lines, and it was going from somewhere in Ohio to New Jersey. Popped the leak. So while they were digging down to find it, they kind of unburied the Superfund site.
Wow.
Never made the news. My people weren't able to get enough facts for me to allow a story to be published.
Right.
So, I mean, think about that.
Yeah.
A Superfund site was accidentally unearthed while they were fixing a leaking oil pipe in the Ohio River.
Wow.
So that's one of the reasons that I got a little fussy out there. And then I live up the hill from it, and you just smell it and smell it and smell it. Every time you go on the news and you hear about air quality, it's the Mon Valley. What about this valley? The Ohio Valley. And then you go way down the Ohio Valley, and you have that new cracker plant. And all those people are talking about the smells and the this, that, and the other. That's not good for you. So anyhow, we did some partnership work with Public Source on that. It was nice to be able to have a helping hand, because you have one reporter and then your freelancers, and then you want to work on a big project, that's almost impossible. So having PMP there to lend a helping hand with that was amazing.
All right. So why? Oh, well, I don't know. I don't want to put you on the spot. I mean, perhaps you may not you not have the answer too, but isn't that something that they should probably do more often, or
They
should they
do.
be in their, I don't know, day-to-day activities to, I mean, foster partnership, or I don't know, is it like a, like a, there's always like a two
It's
sides, right?
also it's a growing organization. So I'm not going to point fingers and say this is bad or this isn't good. It the fact that exists is amazing. It just needs to get itself focused and actually,
which is hard
do.
because everybody has their own brain,
Personality,
right? Personality,
yeah.
right? Again,
This is what we
go back to
do,
the-
and
how
it's
they report
tough.
it.
So
Yeah.
if we're publishing every other week, and they're publishing weekly, and another one's publishing daily,
Mhm.
those become problematic. But so sit on it. I was publishing every other week. There'd be news that would be sat on, and hoping that WPXI or one of the TV stations didn't jump in on it.
Yeah.
So,
And we're still in that mode too, right? Somebody has to jump in first, and they'll be proud of it, and said they're gonna be, I don't know, probably.
That's the hardest thing about that, sitting there and waiting. Occasionally, if it was that early in the cycle, it would go up on the website, and then we would update and then publish that the next time, because it's a moving target.
Right.
Things are changing.
Right. And
But
especially now, I mean, not now, but it's been like this for a while, right? That there's the 24-hour news cycle. And then that's why we have such a messy elections, right? So everybody's like running to publish with half facts, or probably even like 10% facts, right?
Exactly. It's tough. You're right, completely right about that.
All right. So, the next, I don't know. So, because it seems that which is, I didn't know that while you're running Gazette 2.0, you still have your full-time job.
I do.
Right. So, okay, let me pop up screen here so everybody can take a look at it. Okay.
Look at the front end. It's a story map. And a lovely local resident of McKees Rocks.
Right. So it's McKeesRocks.com for those who can't see it. Just well, if you're driving, don't do it. When you don't drive anymore, so, or pull over and then go to this McKeesRocks.com.
It's so this is talking about what the McKees Rocks Community Development Corporation has been working for a long time to try to revitalize our communities.
So is that the charter of CDC in general? I mean, I know that in Pittsburgh,
there's several of them.
They have a lot of CDCs, right? Is that the charter? I mean, what is your mission? What is the CDC's mission?
Who
funds you guys?
So the missions are dependent. So if you see, there's us, McKees Rocks CDC. There's one in Wilkinsburg. There's one in Coriopolis. There's one in Carnegie. There's others. And then there's sometimes different names, same project, same type of thing. Each CDC approaches their community in a different way. It depends on what your community needs, wants.
Right.
Or what you feel like you as the executive director and your, it usually starts out with one person that's like, do this, and then it grows. So in our case, it is revitalization, but we're also really working toward, and I'm not good at putting pretty words into plain English, but working toward giving the people of the community a better future. So, that word that everybody, gentrification. But
Right.
we are attempting to avoid gentrification.
But sometimes it's unavoidable.
It is, I know, but
right, because it's hand in hand. I mean, when it's just, I forgot whom I talked to, but when people say about revitalization, right, just like you said, people just like, oh, gentrification, I mean, because.
So we are working with several groups. So we work with so many organizations in this county. I just came from luncheon where I saw so many of them. And Level is the group's name. Their director is named Jason Tagano, and his project, and he is trying to purchase
I get a map right here.
older houses
Mm-hmm.
that are
Dilapidated.
they're dated, very dated. Instead of tearing them all down, revitalizing them, and getting people who normally could not pass a traditional bank loan,
Yeah.
helping them to become homeowners. So we're in the midst of one of those. That's something new that's going on. He has 10 houses initially. One or two have been, there's people living in them already. They've gotten, that without this program would not be homeowners.
Mm-hmm.
His goal is to do 100 homes
Wow.
in the McKees, Stowe Township, McKees Rocks. That's the school district, Stowe Rocks area. When we have all these little projects going, we bring other groups in to help seniors update their homes when they can't afford to put the railings falling off and it's dangerous, and we'll fix that, or your steps are broken, and they come in and help with the little things. Tons of groups, and I don't know if you're familiar with the Roxy Theater.
Oh, yeah, in the South Side, and they closed.
No, that's the Rex.
Oh, all right. Sorry.
Roxyan is on Charters Avenue in McKees Rocks. It was the main project. See this gentleman on the right or the left here, Terrace Verchek, founder, founding executive director. He was doing this by himself for many years. He is a lifetime resident of McKees Rocks.
We're looking at the website, and we just go to the About section, About menu on top, and staff, and under the staff and board. Yep, and then you see the people there. Yeah, we have Tarek, Jeff.
So one of his big, let's say, building projects was to save that building and reopen it as a catalyst to business in McKees Rocks. That took a lot longer than you think it should. You always hear in these little towns, well, what's the CDC or the Main Street people? They're not moving fast enough. They bought that building. Did they steal the money? Like all this weird stuff that people, because back to your original question about how is this funded? So many of the CDCs, Community Development Corps in Pennsylvania, are funded through a state development program called NAP, Neighborhood Assistance Program. And it's technically tax credits. So you as the CDC, partner with people like Dollar Bank, Key Bank, Tri-State Capital. I'm missing one.
First National?
No, it's the trucking company out in
Ohio?
Pitt, Ohio. Thank you for saving me on that one. So right now we're partnered with those four. At one point we were partnered with UPMC, and they switch every term, but they get a large tax credit on the money that's being used to run. So pay all of our salaries, invest in community, little things here and there. Have events. There's currently 5 of us on staff, and then we have a contractor. There's 6 of us and a contractor. See, we're growing, and those NAP programs are, I believe, 5 years, and then you have to reapply.
Okay.
And you have to bring in new partners, or your same partners, but you have to bring the partners that are looking for and there's only X amount of dollars available statewide. So at any point, there could be well, you don't need any more money. We have all these other people.
Right.
But I can't see them saying that we're going to stop when you have somebody or a group that's been invested there for years, and they're doing this, that, and the other. They have all these projects in play. Right. So,
So talking about that theater, it's been bought, but then people see that it has not moved forward, right?
Mhm. It took forever.
Yeah, because probably you need
One
to
man in 10 years.
and you need to find new funding to
And
get
you
it
need to
developed,
find
right?
people that are going to buy it and put musicians in it.
Mm.
So the group that owns the Roxanne now also owns the Thunderbird in Lawrenceville.
Mm.
And there's another club they own up further. I can't think of the name. But during COVID, they leased it out to Live Nation. Live Nation is running it. They might not be the owner, but Live Nation is running it. There's shows there several nights a week. There's lines up the street, young people. But here we are with very few places for people to eat. And it's just, that's step one out of a million steps.
Yeah, yeah.
And that is actually, so when I was a reporter I wrote for the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette, I met these people, Terrace and Jeb, reporting. And I would run into him and I'd be like, oh, how's the rock scene coming? And he'd be like, ah. And then one day, when I'm deciding I'm getting old, newspaper's dying, I knew this, writing was on the wall. I'm like, I don't want to be 50 and looking for a new career. Let's start when I'm 40 and being particular about what it is I'm going to get into. I wanted to see the Roxanne done. I love, like the building we're in right now, which is called, what is it, Soft Trees? This building here is beautiful. We're in a really old skyscraper here in downtown Pittsburgh. The Roxanne was beautiful once you pulled down the drop ceilings and every other thing. And the facade, the 1960s brown facade that had been pasted over it. There was a beautiful, beautiful building underneath it. And I wanted to see that preserved because so much of downtown McKees Rocks is in the jargon, it's missing some teeth on its main street.
So the downtown is right here, right? Where Aldi is?
Yeah. So if you go up to see the blue, it says Roxanne right there.
Oops, I clicked something I'm not supposed to.
And now there it is.
Oh, Roxanne Theater. There you go.
It's beautiful. I'm sure you're not going to get a great street. Oh, maybe we are. It's at night.
There you go.
If you knew the struggle of finding the last bits of dollars to make that neon sign happen.
Oh,
it's
wow.
The blade, I mean, the internal struggles to make that, it was amazing. So
this is the current
yes, look at this. Yeah. That was under drop ceiling. That's
so guys, go to Google Map, and then type like Roxanne Theater.
So I like old broken things. That's what you
beautiful.
Could call me. The lady who likes old and broken things. Because my newspaper, Old Broken.
Yeah.
McKees Rocks has a great heart. It's just missing some vibrance.
Yeah.
And it'll get there. I promise you. Look at this, a wedding.
Yeah, it reminds me of some old theater in LA.
That one, if you look there, that's not completely done. See, there's rectangles. There was marble one up in there, but that was almost complete at that point.
Beautiful.
Beautiful theater.
Yeah, it should be a destination.
1,400 capacity. I could go on and on. I'm just so pleased that we got it done.
Yeah. So So right now it's still run by Live Nation.
Mm-hmm.
So people who wants to use it to rent it, they have to go through Live Nation. Is that?
Yes.
All right, all in Pittsburgh, if you want to have some events, requires 1,400 seats, just
wedding. You don't even need to use the upstairs. They've had some really beautiful weddings in there.
You don't have to just go to Shangley and Oakland all the time, right? So just go to Roxanne Theater. It's beautiful. All right. Wow. So is that your future right now to continue working with the
I'm
CDC?
here. I don't know if something comes along. Everyone's asking me what's next.
Yeah, exactly. That's my question
and
too.
So
are you going to unshutter Gazette 2.0?
Everybody would like
all AI operated.
There we go. AI stories. I should ask my son that. He would probably like, let's see what we could do with that, Mom.
Yeah, make me a executive director. Your son can run it.
My son got his award at the wake was second best paper boy. He was the paper boy, but he was only second best because his best friend went around with him, and they put the paper out for several years for me.
That's like a good story when he grew up later. I mean,
like, I was
like paper boy in 2023.
They'll be like, what? Well, when his friend, it wasn't like we went door to door. It was large grocery stores and advertisers that wanted anybody that advertised that wanted the paper, they got it. Yeah. They had it there in their lobby, like there's a towing company and they have a gas station. They had it in there when you went in to get your car fixed. You could read the paper. Beauty shop. That's a dated word, but they were reading them in there. It was a good thing, but at some point, I have to, and the rest of the world has to realize that that's the past. We have to look and figure out the future.
Yep, and we've been trying to figure it out for ever.
I know.
So so I don't know what's in the future, or I'm sure there's future in journalism. Yeah, I'm not a journalist. I'm not a journalism major. I don't know, but I'm just a curious person, and
you take beautiful pictures. These are you?
No, I don't know which one.
I've seen plenty of beautiful pictures.
Some are freelancers, some are professional freelancers. Some I took myself. It's a combination of both.
There's some really nice pictures on this wall. Back to answer what's next. So I've been telling people it will find me. That's the answer. I don't know what's next.
That's very nice.
It will find me because my life seems to have its happenstance, and I just do my thing and this looks interesting. I'll stop over here for a while. Find my way.
Right,
so
I think that's I can tell you that my wife and I are also like in the believer of nothing is coincidence. We just do what we do, and then if
it will happen.
It's supposed to happen, it happens. Otherwise, it's not supposed to happen.
Exactly.
All right.
Kindred spirits. I like that.
Wonderful. All right. So that's a great conversation.
Thank you. I actually did not, because I couldn't see the camera going. I didn't feel too nervous, but I hope I answered all your questions.
Yes. Thank you, and I'm glad that you're still fun.
I'm still fun,
even though some of the topics are suspending the operation. All right.
Yeah, I shuttered those doors.
All right.
Thank you.